Hello, and welcome to the About Healing podcast, a show created for those on or awakening into their spiritual journeys, and who are ready, wanting, and learning how to heal themselves. I am your host, About Healing medium and certified spiritual healer, Sheree Buckman. It is my purpose to guide others to the path of self-healing and to inspire those on their spiritual journeys in finding their truths. Join me as I share my experience and unfiltered perspective in healing, as well as the incredible wisdom of the loving energy that guides us. Let's begin. Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to another episode of About Healing podcast. Hello, Miss Copper.
Hello, and how are you today?
Actually, today is kind of a different start for me in doing an episode. As you well know now, there's something different about this morning, and I have been trying to determine what this is. And I have also decided to bring it into the episode because I woke up extra early this morning to write the episode because the week happened and I lost a lot of time and energy. So I woke up this morning to write the episode. And while doing it, I found a few things, or I think I have. I don't know, but I feel like I'm going to be working them out throughout the episode. So bear with me here. Because one was, as we were getting the past couple of episodes, we were going kind of deep into some heavy subjects. We were talking about fear. We've been talking about false beliefs. And I feel like the energy behind finding your truth, I'm like, okay, it's going to get a little bit lighter. Like there's a little bit of light now and we get to talk about it. But when I really started writing this, after meditating and really connecting and drawing the energy to this, no, this was not as light as I hoped it would be. It's still feels a little heavy is not the term I want to use because it's not that. It's just still deep in healing mode. Let's put it that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Sometimes finding your truth isn't always rainbows and unicorns, I think.
No. And you know what? You just saying that right there, I think I'm starting to connect a little bit of maybe where I'm feeling this energy. Because I think what happened when I was writing this is that it brought up some old feelings because I definitely went through this old time of finding my truths, speaking my truths again, not to be so repetitive about my story and the podcast of how uncomfortable and how difficult and the growth and changes within me in this past year of starting this, because I had to find my truths and be comfortable with them and speaking them. And that is what this is about. And I feel that it's still kind of triggering for me sometimes. And as it will be, because the truth is that we're never fully healed. That's it. And I think I have to remind myself that, and I know that. I really know that. But I want to get into this topic and it may unfold with you guys. So I guess I'm bringing this up as I'm trying to find the right word here. It's not warning. It's not a warning. It's just a heads up that, it sounds and feels like I am processing something as I am going through this. If I can show or go through it myself, then I just hope that it inspires or teaches somebody else that it's okay and that we can do this together. Obviously, today as we get into the topic, we are talking about finding your truths. Last week we discussed the importance of discovering and releasing the false beliefs that you have carried throughout your life or that you have learned or that you have taken on as your own that have created limitations that keep you from thriving in your life. But while this is a powerful step in reclaiming your power, it also leaves this really big question, this really big gaping hole of then what is true? Because I talk about this process and the awakening process being overwhelming. And it is, because right now I just don't have another term to describe the emotion and the feeling that goes through this, because you get to feel so ungrounded. You are taking so much out of that junk drawer. and you are reorganizing this foundation where it almost feels empty because when you put focus in it and when you are learning and really trying to discover what doesn't fit you anymore, you find that there's probably not a lot that you are keeping. And then it starts unfolding the other questions and more questions and more questions. And then you just start feeling maybe a little empty. Where to turn to find the answers, where to put your trust or to put your faith, to a point where you begin to feel really lonely. Because when you go through it, there's not a lot of people necessarily right around you that understand or who are going through it. So it does feel isolating. And a part of that process is that isolation is where you're going to find the answers, and it's all part of it. It is a part of the process. I've been there, and that beginning stage was a little scary because I felt really alone in it, really alone. And this is where I want to share not only what I found along the way of finding these truths, but also what I have been learning from spirit and listening to my soul and just to the bigger picture, sort of speak, that there's more to life than what I already knew. The truth is that the truth is highly debatable when it comes to beliefs. Oh, yeah. And I think we all know this too, especially when we're talking about hot topics. You know, those hot topics like religion. Oh, I feel like I hit a few with that one. Or like politics. Oh, I feel that one too. Parenting, education, what is deemed good or bad, vaccines, etc., etc. These are such hot topics and so debatable that some of these have caused mankind to do things that have taken control away from other human beings, going so far as raping, pillaging, and killing other people, and even started wars just to prove a version of someone's truth. Well, those are extreme examples of how far people have taken to prove their points or to prove their versions of the truth. I mean, you can break this down into even what I do, for instance. Let's go there. You know, there was probably a point in history where I would have been burned at the stake of saying or speaking that I talk with spirit, or that I can speak clearly in my own truths that may be unpopular for others, or even thinking that crystals have power, or to say that I am guided by light, or not using one specific religious term, that should be the one belief or whatever it is. But while we as a society now are more accepting of different beliefs, or at least more tolerant, what I do is definitely not accepted still across the board. Now, with me bringing this up as an example, I don't have issues with this anymore. There was a time where I was very afraid of speaking my truth, and I really had to bring this up as a beginning example because of the history and because of the intolerances before. It brought a lot of fear for me to accept and speak my truth, because what I do is part of one of my truths. It's actually multiple truths, actually. It's a collection of truths, but it's about a truth of who I am and what I do. So to share with you what I've learned along the way to get me to this point, I really want to talk to you about the things that I've learned from spirit, or even the things that, this morning through a deep meditation and opening up and asking to be guided to share the right information for this topic. These are the points that came up. And the first one is, and this is actually a very important point to know and understand, is that truths in general are personal. Just like with fear, there is no one truth that connects to every single person. There is not one. This world is full of different cultures, different experiences, different backgrounds, and ways of life that it is not even possible to find one truth that fits all. It's even interesting here because then we try to bring in the facts, because I know that this comes up too. It's like, well, there's one truth here. We know the world is round. Let me tell you, not everybody believes that. You can show science, you can show facts, you can show hardcore evidence on certain things, but not everybody is going to believe it. Oh, that's okay. And that's hard for some people to hear too, that that's okay. I'm going to get into more of that in a minute. And it's important to understand, especially as you're getting into this. Let's say you're not even in an awakening process and you're just listening and this is just kind of all hitting you and you're just absorbing the information, which is beautiful. But just because something is deemed popular or accepted by the popular masses absolutely does not make this a truth. What is deemed truth by popularity is usually a safe zone, which we will get into in a minute. Everybody stick with me. The safe zone. This is that zone we stay in for whether it's survival or fear of judgment or of having people react to us having a different thought base or a different belief. So we stay here in this comfort zone of, well, this is what everybody else believes, so this is where I'm sticking right here. I don't want to stand out. But that does not make it true in any way, shape, or form. Or at least it doesn't make it true for you, especially if you feel deeply otherwise. If it brings anxiety or stress or anything else, it just means that you don't align with it. And truths are not even what we individually see as basic or common sense. We need to be very careful here, everybody, because you have to understand what is true for you does not make it so for someone else or this one type of group or a different culture or anything else, because this is individualized by what you've been through. No matter who you are, and this goes especially for myself, I want to be clear here, we do not know everything. None of us do. There's not one person, not even the smartest person living, not even the most evolved person living. We still do not know anything, because as we are here in our human form as mankind, we still have egos. While we are living and taking a breath, it still exists. And we are still learning and we're still balancing and adjusting and evolving. So no, we don't know. We really don't. Because you also have to understand that we know by our experiences and what we've been through, by what we've seen, by what we've felt. And no two experiences are alike. You know, you can take the example of two people going through the same exact experience, and you're going to get two very different perspectives and two people that learned very different things. So even within that shifts the beliefs and truths that they'll take from even the same exact experience. Not only that, but we have not experienced what others have, what other traumas people have been through, what it was like for them growing up, how they're treated by friends, or the type of work they do, type of stress people take on, the type of healing they've done or not done. There are so many layers that it's not even possible to list. So therefore, we could not understand or conclude what is right for others because our experience, background, and beliefs say different things. And so while even talking about this, I feel like I have to bring up another point, because when we start talking about our beliefs, especially when they are different from others or hearing other people's beliefs that are different from ours, or as we are seeking them, many of us may become triggered by certain topics or beliefs that when they arise in conversation, it's the feeling of heat rising. You just feel like you're getting hot all of a sudden. You feel your face burning. You feel your heart racing and it's pumping over and over again. And you almost feel like you're about on the verge of explosion. And it's this anxiety-fueled thing, and you feel a little bit of anger underneath it. And it's almost like, but why don't you get it? Or why don't you understand? And it's this triggered reaction, this feeling that you're getting, those big reactions that you get from someone saying something to you, not even to you. It's just saying, you can be watching something on TV and it super triggers you and you're getting really angry and you have to know something. Is that triggered response is telling you that it's about you. It is not about the other person. Again, truths are different all over the world and all across the board. So when you have these big triggered responses, there is a line that roots down to unhealed trauma within yourself. Those responses are triggers of feeling out of control or losing control. And those are big examples of where it kind of roots down to. But when you can be in a controversial conversation without the feeling of exploding on someone else, or exploding within yourself, knowing that you can separate from their beliefs, knowing that they are not yours and that they cannot convince you. When you are able to smile and nod, share your truth calmly, or walk away, that is when you are truly within your power. That is when those triggers are gone. You've done the work for yourself inside, the healing that you need. Because the truth is that when or if someone said anything and we have a reaction to it, we believe that they have power over us or over everybody or over society. And we fear that. But take it all back, go into the root and know that no one can change your own truth. We heal and take our power back when we begin to pull ourselves out of the limiting beliefs of those who have chosen not to evolve, or we respect the differences of our choices. So now that we've discussed the truth about truths, well, now I want to share with you some tips on finding your own truths. For those of you that are going through this for yourselves, for those who are asking those questions, I want to bring forward some of the tips and the things that I have used while going through on my journey. From the soul's perspective, truth is found by faith, feeling, and trust. I am talking about just the knowing without knowing. It is the gut feeling. It is the intuition that knows. This is where your personal truths can be found. While we weed through those popular or controversial beliefs and we're searching for our own, there's something that we have to face. It's a big thing we need to face. And the first thing is the fear of judgment, because that right there is one of the big reasons why most don't or choose not to speak those deep-rooted truths that they've kept hidden within. It's the fear of upsetting someone. It's the fear of what would they say or do if they knew how I really felt. I've seen how people react when they believe this, when that isn't popular. They are shunned or discriminated against because you believe something different than those around you. And so as I mentioned earlier, some stay on the side of least resistance in that safe zone, those to not rock the boat. This was me. I liked my safe zone. You guys have all heard my story at this point if you've listened to the podcast, especially last episode when I shared a little bit about my background and how I developed people-pleasing skills as a form of survival. Well, within that too is that I was learning not to rock the boat, because if I felt differently, then I brought certain attention on myself, and I don't like confrontation because throughout my childhood, confrontation was not good. I was not taught to speak my truths through some of my experiences. I was being taught to conform, and that probably sounds a little harsh. Maybe not conform. Maybe conform. It's probably a lot of conform. But it was, these are our truths. Don't rock the boat. Don't make me look bad. Don't let others see kind of what happens behind closed doors, all those types of things. So I was definitely those like, ooh, I need to keep my mouth shut about a lot of things, even if I felt some completely different than everybody else around me. And like I said, it wasn't until much later in my life where I started to understand that, wait, maybe what I believe and what I see as truth are good things, are beautiful things. Well, I will tell you, an awakening forces you to really ask yourself what you really believe, because that's where the big stuff came into play for me. And I had to work through all the controversial topics and the popular beliefs. Not only that, but truths about myself, mostly the truths about myself, who I really was, what I really wanted, what my purpose was. Because before that awakening for me, no matter what I felt within this work or the connections that I had, trust me, this is not something I would come out in public and talk about. Or to sit here on a podcast and tell you, for some people, some of the things I talk about is controversial, because for them, they might have very, very different beliefs, and that's how they were brought up. And that's okay, because I'm not here to talk about my truths for everyone across the board. This is here for those that are drawn to it, that can help them find their own. And that's all that I want to do at this point? So to help you begin that process, start doing this. Has a couple of stages, especially for those who are just beginning or in a raw state of really maybe struggling to speak out or even to understand what your truths are. Start by really listening to conversations around you, by the TV shows you watch, the news, if you listen to the news. I don't personally watch the news, but if you still do, really listen to it. Listen to people getting in heated arguments. Listen or pay attention to things you hear, see, and read that trigger certain responses that makes you wonder, is this really what I believe? Start with your thoughts. Start there. Because for some people, that's at least a safe zone, because nobody's hearing it outside of you. This is starting within you, and nobody needs to know at this point. Because sometimes you need to organize it first to even know where you're at. Start thinking about what feels right for you. If a certain conversation or topic is on and it brings up anxiety within you, that is something there to start questioning. Start trailing that back and finding, well, why is this bringing me anxiety? Again, anxiety is a feeling of feeling out of control. It is there. You can start tracing what doesn't feel right for you or what does. Because what is right for you and your truth is going to be calming. It's going to feel calming. This is my knowing. Okay, log it. Log it in the back of your head. Then when you feel ready, or if you feel ready, start a journal. Start a journal and create a list of your own beliefs. Something that you can come back to over and over again. Something where you can write things out. As you are finding triggers and finding things that are no longer your beliefs, start writing out what you do believe in. And if you don't know what it is yet, write what you know isn't or is not your belief, because now you're starting somewhere and it can start unfolding naturally or as slowly or as quickly as it needs to. Then try talking to somebody, someone you trust. Start small, especially if you're not one who's used to speaking your truths. That was me. I found that when I would start speaking my truth or talking to certain people, there are certain relationships in my life or certain people who are really good at finding my triggers and would respond back, like give me examples, or would want all the reasons of why I believe the way I believe. First of all, you don't have to give reasons. Like I said, sometimes it's just a feeling or an inner knowing. And you don't have to. So that's why it's important to find someone you really trust. And you can sit down and warn them, like, I really need to talk about this. Are you willing to just listen? Finding that one person to just listen, that is not going to react, and that this is how I'm feeling. I'm going to tell you that when you start doing this and you are able to start speaking those really big truths, it is one of the most freeing experiences you can go through. It is liberating. It is like shedding this really big weight off your shoulders. Like you've been carrying this giant secret. It's like carrying a giant secret and no one knows. But when you're able to say it, and I don't care how big or how small your truth is, it could be as small as, you know what? I don't like tomatoes. Like, I don't know. Like maybe that's something that has always been on the table for dinner and everybody eats it. But it's one thing you don't say anything about it. I don't know. Whatever it is, like it can be small. But if it's something that you never said before and you have the free time where you can say it and be free out loud, then, let that weight off. Obviously, those bigger things, those bigger truths, the ones that we hold the most fear about saying, eventually, when you do say it, it's going to be just as freeing too, because then you get to stop pretending. You get to stop acting, and you get to start being you, being your true self. And eventually, you may even be able to stand in your deepest truths and speak proudly, even if they are unpopular. You know, all of these steps kind of go through the whole mediumship experience for me. It was about accepting what I do. It was about trying to talk about it, because that was a hard thing, I think, even for me to understand and take on, coming from someone who just wanted to be accepted for who they were and struggled with it from a lot of their adolescence and on. But I held a lot of fears. And I held a lot of false truths. And I had to go through this process for myself. I have journals going through this too and finding what my truths are and letting go of the past and working through to say that it's okay. And I was able to, I guess I was really lucky to really connect with my guides early on in this process. And I just felt, and I had to believe, because I would have these overwhelming, calming meditations or experiences where I knew that it would be okay if I told without really knowing. Like when I shared with the moms group, and the very first time I opened up to want to practice mediumship, telling them, I see dead people, can I practice? And just hoping one person would say, hey, yeah, and again, having 20 people and doing groups and then it evolving to where I am now, having a podcast and speaking to, honestly, a limitless amount of people. Anybody can listen if they wanted to. And I had to remove all the fear. And I know not everybody is going to agree with me. I know for some people that this may not be okay for them. And you know what? I'm okay with that too. Which brings me into the last important topic that I wanted to mention was not only are we finding our own truths and accepting and learning about ourselves, is that we also need to work on and accept the truths of others. That in itself is one of the most healing and liberating things that you can do for yourself, other than finding your own. It is to understand and respect others' beliefs when they do not match your own, no matter how controversial it is. We are all in different places at different times. We're all learning, we're all growing, we're all evolving, and we do not know what certain people have gone through. So we cannot pass that judgment. We just sit back, and we don't even have to be a part of their conversation or their beliefs. You can just pull yourself out and just let words be words, knowing that no one can take that control from you and no one can make you believe what is not yours. What if we turn arguments into conversations, allowing each person to share their own truth? Oh, the things we would learn if we could do that, man. Honestly, or not, and that's okay too. But like I said, sometimes it is okay to agree to disagree. It is just to understand that, you know what, that's your belief and this is mine. I respect yours and I'm not going to change yours, but you can't do mine either. Can't change mine. So as I wrap up this episode, I now understand why maybe this brought me a little bit of a triggering response in talking about this topic, because it is something that I have been working very hard in. And this is something that was extremely difficult for me to do. It was honestly easy to do the false beliefs, is to weed out what I didn't believe. For me, that was the easy part. But finding your own truths, man, that's a hard one. It's being honest and removing that fear of judgment and telling yourself and respecting yourself that whatever you believe is okay, and that your truth is okay, and that you are absolutely perfectly imperfect, and that we are worthy of all that we desire, including respect. But how can others respect you if you can't respect yourself or live in your truth? Our truths will forever be changing and evolving. What is my truth now can very well change very easily later. And it's what I've always said, take what feels true for you and leave what doesn't. Because, one day I can be talking about the same subject and it's going to change and evolve over time. And it will do that with new experiences. And know that compassion comes from experience, like trauma. That's where real compassion is. It is knowing and understanding what people have been through, because you've experienced yourself and therefore you can understand where people are coming from. Keep that in mind. It is a choice to learn and grow from one another and from any and all of our experiences. You are a beautiful, evolving, learning, growing soul, and you are healing and becoming more yourself every day. I wish you love, and I do wish you compassion, because I know what it's like to go through this. It is hard, but it gets easier and it gets easier the more you do it, and you align yourself with the people that make you feel safe. We are all in this together. So until next time, my beautiful souls, be kind to yourselves. With so much love and gratitude, I want to thank you for listening to this week's episode. My hope today is that the message continues to guide you along your path to healing. To learn more about me and my purposeful work, visit my website at abouthealingmedium.com. You can also follow About Healing Medium on Facebook and Instagram, where you can find the episode's healing guidance, quotes, tips, insights, and chances to win free stuff. To ask a question or to share comments, email me at abouthealingpodcast@gmail.com, or feel free to reach me on Facebook and Instagram at About Healing Medium. Until next time, be kind to yourself.